Good evening, everyone. This is Craig Palmer, your host of the Good, the Bad, and the Odd online dating podcast. I want to thank everyone for joining me tonight. Tonight, we're going to talk about a few different issues that have come up, right? And I must admit, some of the things that I see nowadays, it just boggles the mind, right? Like it's just so much going on, right? But let me talk a little bit about dating and relationships and stuff like that, right? Because interesting, something recently came up with Dak Prescott, right? Now, Dak Prescott, for the women out there who are not football fans, right? Dak Prescott is a football player with the Dallas Cowboys, right? And he just signed an extension worth, I believe, like $300,000, right? And to the average person, that really has nothing to do with us, right? Because we are probably never going to see that kind of money in our lifetime. Probably. Let's hope we do, but we probably not. But let's. So anyway, Dak Prescott decided to not get married because she refused to sign a prenup. And there are a couple of theories of thought when it comes to that. Me personally, and this is, I've had the discussion with some women online in the past because my theory is this: we can't live in a world with rose colored glasses and think that all relationships are going to last forever, right? We would hope to. I would think that if you find someone online or not online and you decide to marry them, right, that you would be together forever. Now, when I was with my wife, I didn't get a prenup, right? Because it didn't make sense for me to get a prenup because she owned a home at the time, I owned a home at the time. And we both kind of understood, we didn't have, we both had, 401k plans and, we both had essentially the same thing. So I didn't have a prenup back then. Now, as a homeowner, right? And as someone who's trying to protect assets and intellectual property and things of like that, I would have a prenup, right? Now, when I mentioned that to a couple of people online, they had a look like, "What? Why would you get a prenup?" Well, because I want to ensure that my kids, my sons in particular, because they're still relatively young, are protected with things that I want to ensure that they receive later in life, right? If I get with someone, and let's just say for argument's sake, we decide to purchase a house together, which is fine, then of course she's entitled, if God forbid things don't work out and we have to dissolve the marriage and all that kind of stuff, then, and we have to sell the house, she gets half of the proceeds, I get half of the proceeds, we move on, right? But if, we, let's just say before we get married, I think everybody should understand whatever you come into the relationship with at the time of the relationship is kind of like what you should leave with the relationship. Now, whatever you acquire during the relationship, that's something completely different. If, let's say my partner and I open up a business and the business is thriving, right? And I always look back at Bob Johnson, right? Bob Johnson, the former owner of BET, when he got a divorce, right? He gave his wife, and this is crazy, but it's true. He gave his wife $1 billion. Yeah. He gave her $1 billion, $1 billion, right? He was worth 2 billion. He gave her $1 billion, and he kept $1 billion, right? And I listened to an interview with him after he got a divorce, and the person asked him, how do you feel about giving up $1 billion, this and that? And he said, you know what? She was entitled to it. And the reason why she was entitled to it was because she held down the fort while he was out there promoting BT, and he felt like, yo, she earned it, she deserves it. He had no issue with it. And I'm with him with that. If you're with someone and she helps you make your business thrive, and she's got your back and she's holding everything down, and God forbid things don't work out, you know what, she's entitled to have. I would have no issue with that. But if you have a house or two, you have a business going on, and you decide, before you decide to get married, you should have a prenup. Because you don't want, I have a friend of mine who didn't get a prenup, right? And he's not rich by any stretch of the imagination, right? But what ended up happening when he got a divorce, the 8 years that he had put into his 401 and other things, he had to dissolve those things for his wife now, who didn't put into this 401, who wanted half of everything. And he swore up and down he would never get married again. Of course, he did get married again, and this time he didn't get a prenup, but he got raked through the ringer, right? And I've seen in the news recently, right, where some guys, Tyrese, the singer, right, he was talking about how he was dumb for not having a prenup, right? And I think I don't see anything wrong with a prenup. I think it's a great way, and it's so funny because now there's this guy online. I'm not going to mention his name, but anyway, he mentioned something. I don't know how true it is. I would suggest do your research. I'm just going to tell you what he said, right? And I kind of believe him. Now it may or may not be true, but he says statistics have shown that people with prenups, marriages last longer. Right now, I don't know how true that is. So I'm not, that's not the gospel, right? But I have a feeling that once you take money out of the equation, right, I kind of feel like the relationship does last a little bit longer, right? I think people, because that, if, because the incentive, you know, is so great. If you're with someone, things aren't working out, let's say it's just a little rocky, and listen, if I get a divorce, I'm going half, I get half of everything and I can move on with my life. Listen, who wouldn't want, $20 million and be single, right? Like, that sounds pretty damn good. $20 million and being single. So, I don't know. I kind of feel like a prenup, it just it makes you sure that the person is there for you and not there for the money, and is not there for what you can provide them. That's my belief on it. And so I would certainly get a prenup, right? And that lets me know, hey, the woman's there because she wants to be with me. And I would hope that anyone I get with is already accomplished, right? Anyone who I'm with is already going to have her own home. She's already going to have her retirement set aside. Like, she's already made plans what she's going to do. And, not look for me to help build her. Like, she should already be built, right? In any relationship, you really should be meeting the person halfway, right? Obviously, I think people, both parties should be employed, and I get it. When I look at women's profiles and they're like, please, be employed, have a car, have some place to live. Like, these are basic necessities, right? Like, and this goes out to all the brothers, like, we have to do better. Like, we should have, our own home, our own condo. You should have a car that, is gonna get you from point A to point B, right? You should have a career or some, viable employment, right? Those are just basic necessities. Now, if you're making a little bit more, that's why, I chuckle when I watch stuff like Kendra G, right? Because I'm watching, and I don't watch the entire interview, to be honest with you, because there's some interviews that are just unbearable to watch, right? But these girls that come on there are just so unrealistic. Like one today, I was watching, happened to be watching, a clip of Kendra G, and there's this woman on there who happens to be an attorney, and you think that, and no disrespect to the woman, because I don't know her name, right? But and great, you have a career as an attorney. That's not sufficient enough for a guy to want to get with you, right? You have to appear attractive to the person. You have to seem down to earth with the person, right? And so she's like, "Well, I want the guy to make $350,000." First of all, I mean, if she's an attorney, I'm going to go on the assumption she's smart enough to know that 0.8% of brothers in the US are making $100,000 a year, over $100,000 a year. Now, I'm sure the percentage is even less for guys making $350,000. Now, yeah, you have athletes making really good money nowadays, and you got actors making money, but you have just as many actors, poor actors, right? You have the average guy, and I made $100,000 a year often when I worked at Verizon. I don't work at Verizon anymore, right? So no, I don't make that type of money. But I'm just saying, like, these women that want a guy that make $100,000 a year, that's just so unrealistic, right? And then what they bring to the table is like, you got four kids, right? You have you're not, I'm gonna say not, you're not like an Instagram model, and you want the demand is so high. It's like, yo, they're unrealistic. I'm sorry, I got to keep it real. So it just boggles the mind because God, and the reason why I bring it up is because as guys, our demands are not as unrealistic. Our demands are quite simple, right? We want a woman that's attractive, intelligent, caring, good conversationalist. For me, a little stylish, right? Someone who is available. Because one of the things that happens when you deal with, women online and stuff like that, and if you're willing to deal with women with kids, which I am, you also have to be prepared that sometimes when you're dealing with women with kids, the availability is going to be somewhat limited at times, right? And, I have kids. So I know how it can be sometimes, if I'm talking to someone, they want to hang out or whatever, and I got to take my son to basketball practice or I have to take him somewhere, my availability just is not like, it's not like someone who has no kids or like some guys I know whose kids are grown. You know what I mean? Like if your kid is like 22, 23, you have no restrictions. They have their own car, this and that. Now, there are women out there that even though their kids are grown, they're like attached to the hip of their kids, right? Like there was one young lady, like every weekend, she was like, "Well, my daughter and I we're going hiking, and my daughter and I we're doing this, and my daughter and I is doing that," and it's like you almost kind of wonder, like, yo, how can you have a relationship if every weekend you're doing something with your kid? And I get it. You're going to end up, listen, you're going to have to look at your kid as a relationship because guys are going, they want some time to be able to cultivate a relationship. And if you don't have that time because you're so, kind of caught up with your kids, which is fine, then it's not going to materialize. So, so I just wondered, what people thoughts were when it came to prenups, because like I said, I'm a big advocate, just like I'm also an advocate of 50-50, right? And it's so funny because there are women that I've met online, and you would have thought I spit in their eye by mentioning 50-50. They're like, what? 50-50? I'm like, yeah, right? And I can explain, listen, anything that I say, I feel like I can support it, right? Like, I mentioned 50-50, and there's some women that always want to start quoting, Bible scriptures about, well, the man's supposed to be a provider and a leader and this and that. Yeah, you know what? There was a time that the guys paid all the bills, and the guy, did everything. Those days is long gone. We live in a different era now. The economy now, if you want to get ahead, and I used to tell my clients this all the time, one paycheck can hold you down, two paychecks can help you get ahead, right? And what I mean by that is if you have a viable partner, right? You're working, she's working, right? Now, of course, I'm holding down my household. Whatever partner I get with, she's holding down our household. If we're smart enough and we say, all right, let's make this happen, let's do this, right? You move in with someone, now everything that you were paying before in its entirety is now split down to half. So whatever you were paying in a mortgage, now that mortgage is half. That's money that you could save or pay towards bills or do other things. Like, you have to kind of say to yourself, like, it makes sense, right? There's some women out there that are like, you know what? I want the guy to pay all the bills. Why? Why would the guy pay all the bills if he has a partner? Why struggle and have a partner? I have friends. I have a friend who met a young lady online, and he is struggling to pay all the bills and help her out, and all this other kind of stuff. And I'm like, it makes no sense, right? You could struggle all by yourself. Why get with someone to struggle? And I say that to a woman as well. If you're living by yourself, handling your business, and then you get with a guy and you're struggling, what? What? Make it make sense. It just doesn't make sense to be with someone and struggle. You can struggle all by yourself. So I'm a very big believer in 50-50. It makes all the sense in the world. Get a guy who is working, guys, get a female who's working. And listen, there's so many women out there that are just in really good positions, right? They're working, their credit is pretty decent and stuff like that. Someone like that is, you're supposed to sit down and say, okay, let's take over the world, right? And I say that jokingly, but I mean, down the road, I want to buy like a condo in Costa Rica, Mexico, someplace, Honduras, wherever, where the climate is warm, where we can go chill for about a month or two, and you can rent it out as an Airbnb, right, and make money off of it. So, you know, you need a partner who's going to be able to meet you halfway, right? And at this stage, in your later stages of life, right, these are things that have to be discussed, because you don't want to get with someone and not be prepared, right? Like if I'm getting with someone that I'm really into, I'm going to ask them like, all right, what kind of, and that's if we're considering merging, possibly living together, and things like that. Then you want to find out, all right, how much debt do you have? What's your credit like? What kind of bills do you have, monthly bills? Because if you have a good partner and you really sit down, let's just say for me, if I had a partner who was, let's just say she was working somewhere and she was 2 semesters away from her master's degree or 2 semesters away from her bachelor's degree. I would tell her, listen, go back to school, get that, get that education out the way. And I would say, listen, let me hold down the bills for a month or two or a year or two while you complete your education. So that way, you know what, you can get a job making more money and stuff like that. Right? So these are things that you should discuss with a partner. Like, how do I make you better? Right? And I want my partner to think the same way. I want her to think like, how do I make you better? Right? Like, how can we get this paper together? Right? If you're selling something, right? Like, let's say you're into making wigs or selling eyelashes, or you make clothing, or you crochet, or whatever you do, I'm going to look to support that because I want you to thrive. The same way my partner, as I start going on a book tour and I start going to events to sell the book, I want my partner there with me to help me sell the book. Right? She doesn't necessarily have to describe the book, but she should be at my table, helping me thrive. Helping me get ahead. So that's what you kind of want in a partner, right? That's going to help you grow. So back to the whole prenup thing. I'm a big advocate of it. And for those watching, by all means, you know, please go to YouTube. Check out if you miss any parts of the show, you can always go to YouTube the following day and check out the show. If you ever want to make comments on the show or join the show, you can actually go to YouTube, the Good, the Bad, and the Odd Online Dating Podcast on YouTube, and watch live and make comments from there, right? And if you want to join the show, by all means, feel free to shoot me a text, inbox me, and DM me. If you're watching on TikTok, or you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, and you want to come on the show, by all means, let me know. Because I love, love, love hearing from others. And in fact, I was just talking to a friend of mine. Unfortunately, he's a little under the weather, but he'll probably be on an upcoming show, and he's going to give me a male perspective on online dating. Because, or should I say, another male perspective on online dating? Because obviously, you guys hear my perspective all the time, but you should hear other guys' perspectives as well, right? Because I think women, they want to hear what guys think, right? Because men and women truly think things differently, right? We really, really do, right? Um, like I was just talking to a friend of mine, and she was helping this lady, right, who was homeless, right? Now she ends up finding out that the woman, has a man and isn't homeless anymore and stuff like that. And I'm like telling her, you know, that woman and her man, they should be kind of getting their act together. What type of support should she provide? None, right? If you have a man, I'm sorry, you should not be struggling. You know what I mean? If I have a woman and I'm struggling, I don't need her. I'm sorry. Like I would not be with someone and be struggling. Thank you. I completely agree. Um, like if you, and that's why online dating, I'm a big advocate of online dating. And that's why I wrote a book about online dating, because the stigma that used to be attached to online dating, yo, um, is long gone, right? It's really long gone. Like, don't be afraid nowadays to tell someone. And it's so funny because there's this young lady I met. Man, this is real talk. There's a young lady that I met online on Black People Meet in 2008. And she just celebrated a wedding anniversary, right? And it's amazing that, you know what, there are people sometimes that you can meet online, and sometimes it doesn't necessarily progress into a relationship per se, but you might just end up having a pretty decent friendship, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? And it's funny because there's a young lady that I thought we were really cool and we would talk every now and then. And she says to me, now that she met someone, I cannot talk to you anymore, right? And I'm like, well, why? Just because you met someone, I don't think that should eliminate you having a male friend, right? And it's okay to tell a guy, listen, guys have no issues when you tell a guy, listen, I'm seeing someone and, I'm with that person. We don't care. Like, at least for me, I have no issue with a woman having, meeting someone and having a partner. I'm happy for that person. You know what I mean? I think it's horrible when you establish a friendship with someone and the moment they get with a guy, they toss that friendship away, right? Because the guy doesn't want you to be friends with him. Like, because relations, once again, relationships end, right? Your friendship might continue to thrive, right? That friendship might be one of your best supporters, right? And if you throw away that friendship, right, because of a guy, and then the friendship ends, right, and then you come back and you're like, hey, well, yeah, that didn't work out. I'm gonna just tell you, like, get the hell out of here. No, let me not say that. I mean, I'm not gonna tell the person get the hell out of here, but I am gonna let her know, like, yo, you because it's going to happen again. In all likelihood, the woman's going to meet another dude, and once again, she's like, well, he doesn't want me to talk to any guys and this and that. Yo, a guy, I learned a valuable lesson. I was dating someone, and she hated me having female friends, right? And I cut off a couple of women that I were really cool with, that I didn't have a relationship with, but I was just cool with because it made the woman uncomfortable, right? Because she is like, oh, well, I don't want you to have female friends. And she was real jealous and insecure. And you know what? I learned a valuable lesson from that. And if I get with a woman now and she's insecure and, has an issue with me having female friends, she's probably not going to be the one for me. I'm sorry, because I have female friends that I've never been involved with. When I worked at Verizon, the vast majority of the people I worked with were females, right? And uh, I know you could, and feel free to do so if you want. You know the code, so feel to hop in if you are allowed to or you get permission to, right? So, um, and some of those females that I met at Verizon, they're like sisters, right? I would never say, you know what, I can't communicate with you because my woman um is not comfortable with me having a female friend. No, right? Like those are my sisters. These are women that I've known before I met the woman. And you know what? The woman has to understand, like, yo, there are a male species on the planet and female species on the planet. And you should now, and it's funny because I was having this debate with someone recently, and she made a good point, which is true. If you have a female friend and you're dating someone, she should be able to meet that person, right? Like, um, like if I have a female friend, and let's just say I now have, let's say, a girlfriend per se, right? My girlfriend can meet the female, and the female's gonna know, hey, yo, this is my girl, right? And we can all be friends, right? Because I want my girlfriend to understand that, listen, this is a female friend. This is not someone I'm romantically involved with. And I want her to feel comfortable and understand, you know what, me and her are cool. um, and and as long as she understands that, she should be fine. Now, don't conceal it. Don't conceal the woman where you tell your woman, I got a female friend, and she can't meet the woman, because then that's a red flag, right? And so, from the guys out there watching, like, yo, let if there's a female that is interested in you, then that's something different. Because if you have a girlfriend and there's a woman that's interested in you, and she can't accept the fact that you're with someone else, then you might have to cut her loose, right? That I can understand, right? But, not, I don't want you talking to any women, and I don't want you to have no female friends and stuff like that. Like, to me, that's completely ridiculous, because, you know, and I'm not insecure. You know what I mean? When I have female friends, um, and if I have a girlfriend and stuff like that, or a woman, she has. If I have a girlfriend and she has like male friends, I don't care. I'm not insecure. Like, continue to have your male friends, because you got to understand something. The person is with you because they want to be with you. So why would you be concerned that? Now I get it. Let me backtrack for a moment, right? Because this is the contention that some women have, right? And I get it. There are some women out there who are diabolical. I like using that word, diabolical, right? And so what they'll do is they'll act like they're your friend, but they really have an interest in you, and they want to, potentially pursue it. So they'll kind of wait it out, and they'll say, you know what, maybe I can convince him. Or what they'll do is they'll try to catch you at your weakest moment, right? Because things happen. If you have a relationship with someone, and let's just say, me and my woman, we have an argument, right? And, things like that happen. The female friend is there, and she puts on the guise of, oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear, they got an argument and stuff like that, right? And and so what ends up happening is, she might try to kind of slip in, right? But you got to be confident enough to know that the guy is true to you. So what's going on, Miss Duha?
Hello, Mr. Palmer.
Well,
I was watching you, and I've got a lot to say about what it is that you're saying right now.
I know.
A lot to say.
Uh-oh.
So, all I was hearing was womp, 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 womp,
Right. Is it? Did you get
First
the
of
approval?
all,
Did you get the approval first of all? Let's make certain.
well, we're not together anymore.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What happened? Should can we can
So,
we can we find out what happened?
a lot of what you've been talking about, the insecurities of having male friends. And, he was checking my phone and he was feeling some type of way about some messages that he saw. And I'm like, they were way before you. So what's the problem? He did not believe that, if you've ever been with somebody intimately, that you should still
Mhm,
be friends with them. Whereas I'm the type of person, and I told you, I feel like women always put men in a category, and
mhm.
even if I've been with them intimately, doesn't mean that I'm ever going to be with them intimately again.
Right.
And he was just the type that he felt like if there was any type of intimacy, there should never be a relationship at all.
Right.
So that's why it made me want to come online tonight, because I'm like, okay, I can see both sides of it. I feel like we should be able to have relationships with other
Right.
men or vice versa, regardless if you've been intimate with them, at all, as long as that communication is there between you and your significant other. And if they're insecure about it, I feel like that's their own insecurities, especially if you're not giving them reasons to feel insecure. That's something that they need to work on themselves. So I actually do agree with you for once.
I completely agree with you because, like I said, the insecurities, it boggles the mind. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Someone is with you because they want to be with you, right?
Exactly.
And so if you have them, you have the prize, let's say, let's call it the prize, right?
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
have you, they should feel like,
Hmm.
okay, no one else can step in, unless they do
Hmm.
something wrong. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
as long as you're handling your business and you're making the person happy, you should have no concerns, right? Especially,
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know your whole situation, but I know you spent a lot of time with your fiance, right? I
Hmm.
mean, he damn near, I guess, like moved in, right? Kind of like with you, right? And he's
Hmm.
there all the time. He's there around the kids.
Hmm.
Like he has nothing
Hmm.
to worry about, right? So, I mean, you're like right there, like, especially if you're with the person all the time. You know what I mean? You're with the person all the
Hmm.
time. You see how they treat you and all that kind of stuff. You shouldn't be concerned. You should be able to be like, all right, go have your fun, babe. Go do your thing and not be worried like, where you at? And who's there? And why is John there? You used to date John, and and like you be like, what? Like I don't understand why guys get insecure like that.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna ask you a question and I'm gonna give you like a real life scenario.
Mhm,
Like his issue with insecurity was I had a male friend and I was talking to a male friend about a situation between him and I. And so
mhm,
that made him feel insecure and very jealous. So if you have a female friend and you're having maybe an issue with your significant other, would you talk to the female friend about the situation? Or do you feel like that's a violation of the privacy between you and your significant other?
that's a great question, and I'm going to answer that. Right. Um, this is something that I learned a long time ago, and I can
Hmm.
tell you, I learned this in 19.
Oh my God. You going back to the
19
1900s? You're so
no, no,
old.
yeah, I learned this in 1991. And I've never
Hmm.
forgotten this ever. And it's one of the best things I've ever learned, right?
Listening.
I never ever discuss my relationship with another woman.
I
Other,
don't agree with that.
hold,
I don't
hold,
agree. Oh my
hold,
God.
hold
Okay, go
on, hold
ahead.
on, hold
I'm
on.
listening.
I never discuss my relationship with another
Mhm.
woman other than my sisters. Right?
I don't agree with that
And,
because I feel like in order for you to really understand a woman's perspective, you should
mhm.
get another woman's perspective.
and you
And
and
especially if I don't care, like I'm so secure with myself, I don't care who
you,
it is that you're talking to. But
mhm,
now I will also match energy. So if you have a
mhm,
problem with me talking to a man, I'm going to have a problem with you talking to a woman. But if you're not understanding my perspective and you feel like it's too feminine, I don't have a
mhm,
problem with you talking to another woman to get that perspective and to see where I'm coming
mhm.
from because I'm too secure in myself. But I
Right.
don't understand why a man would have a problem if I go to another man and be like, hey, is this
Let me tell you what
disrespectful to a
happened.
man?
Let me tell you what
Okay,
let
go
me
here.
tell
I'm
you what
listening.
happened. Right.
I'm listening.
Because this is a real story. This is real talk.
Okay.
Right. So 1991, I'm dating this young lady. Right. Great relationship. Well, let me backtrack.
Hmm.
I'm gonna call one because I don't want to name names per se. So I'm gonna call one of the young ladies I worked with at
Hmm.
my day job, right? And then the
Hmm.
other woman I worked with on my night job because I had two jobs at the time, right? So
Hmm.
on my day job, I'm working with this one woman. I'm thinking we're cool, we're friends,
Hmm.
right? And like you said, we should be able to talk to another woman about another woman's perspective, right? Like, so I'm
Hmm.
like, so she asked me, how's your relationships, right? So I
That's
mentioned,
disrespectful. I think no, that is disrespectful.
right? So let me tell you what happened. So she says, so I said, well, I'm dating someone now on my night job who I really like.
Hmm.
Although I have some issues with her, and I don't know how they're going to end up because she has really bad credit. She has some high debt right now. And I would hope that at some point me and her can purchase a house together, right?
Hmm.
And then I said to her also, and right now the sex is not that great right now, right? Because, after one time she's exhausted, and sometimes I want like second and thirds, and it's not
Oh my
happening.
God.
So
You're
she's like,
horrible. I would have stabbed you in your carotid artery if I would have ever heard those words come out of your mouth.
right. So then she was like, well, sometimes, a woman has to get used to a guy, right? So she was like, wait it out, see what happens, right? And then she's also said, people credit can get better, so, don't worry
That's
about
true.
it, this and that, right? I'm like, okay. Now I'm thinking, me and her, on my day job, we work together, we're cool, right?
Mhm.
She calls my house one day, right? And she says so I'm going to fast forward, a bunch of things happen. But anyway, myself and the girl I worked with on my night job, we ended up moving in with each other, right?
Okay.
Because she was having some issues with her landlord. And I said, listen, you're always at my house
The
anyway. I'm
girl with
just,
the bad credit, you let her
right,
move into your house.
right. So I let her move into the house with me, right?
Hmm.
And because I'm thinking, you know what? This is the one. I'm going to marry this woman. We're going to have kids together. We're going to buy a house together. We're going to build together. The sex started getting really good too, right? It got better after a few months, right? So I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, everything is cool, right?
Hmm.
The girl from my day job, she calls the house, right? And so, pick up the phone, like, hey, what's up? She's like, hey, I want to talk to you. I said, listen, right now, me and my boo, right, getting ready to watch a movie. Let me call you at work tomorrow. We'll chat tomorrow, right? So she's like,
Hmm.
all right. She calls back 10 minutes later. So I said, what's up? We're getting ready to watch a movie. I'll talk to you tomorrow at work. She's like, I know, but I really want to talk to you right now. So I'm like, listen, we're getting ready to watch a movie. I'll talk to you tomorrow, right? She calls back 5 minutes later, right?
Why'd you answer?
Because the phone is ringing. This is back before, caller ID. So I just was picking up. So,
Hmm.
and she's like, listen, but I want to really ask you something. That's not. I said, listen, I'll be at work tomorrow. Call me tomorrow. I hang up. She calls a fourth time. Now,
That's
what do
just
you think happens on the
that's so
fourth time?
disrespectful.
Right?
You tell her off.
No, the fourth time, my woman picks up the phone. Right? And she says, hey, let me tell her, listen, we're getting ready to watch a movie, and tell her to call you tomorrow at work. So she picks up the phone and she's like, hey, so and so, listen, me and Craig, we're getting ready to watch a movie. Call him at work tomorrow. You know what she tells my woman? She says, bitch, put him on the phone. She said, and that's why your credit is all fucked up. You can't buy a house or nothing like that. And, I could buy a house with him tomorrow if I wanted to, because I already own a home.
She
And,
was messy.
right. And then she says, and that's why you can't fuck. Right. And because, you know, he be wanting it more than one time. And you saw and this and that, and was told her all the stuff that I had told her. Right. Because I'm thinking I wanted a female perspective, and I'm thinking I can trust her. Right.
Mhm. But
So
this is the thing.
I learned
No,
a valuable lesson then. Let me tell you what I learned.
no. So no, you can't do that though, Craig. Before you say what you learned, when you have a female friend, you have to keep it generalized. Like you can't make it so specific. But go ahead. What did you
I
learn?
know that now.
Uh,
So
mm-mm.
consequently, right? So my girl, she's on the phone at the time, and she's like, oh, really? Oh, okay, right? She says, but nevertheless, we're getting ready to watch a movie. Call him tomorrow at work. Boom. She hangs up, right?
Mhm.
So I go to the kitchen, pop some popcorn, come back to the room, put the movie on pause, right? And I'm like, babe, what's up? We're getting ready to watch this movie. She's not answering me. She's like in the living room.
She pissed, but you, yeah.
Right. So I go in the living room and she's packing a bag, right? So I said to her, what are you doing? She's like, I'm leaving. I said, you're
Mhm.
leaving? Leaving to go where? It's 10 o'clock at night.
Mhm.
She says, I'm going to my
Mhm.
girlfriend's house. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
"You're going to your girlfriend's house? Why?" She says, "I'm going to my girlfriend's house because you don't know how to keep your motherfucking mouth quiet. You
I
tell me
agree.
it's my business, this and that." And she ripped me a new one.
Exactly. Exactly. Because just like I presented it to you tonight, I'm like, okay, how would you feel if I was talking to somebody that I might have been intimate with and sharing
Mhm,
information? Like, you have to keep the question generalized. You can't make it so
mhm,
specific where the person is going to become jealous and they're going to be offended. That's the first thing. The second thing, I think I need to clarify something.
mhm.
Apparently I was not engaged because he was still married. That part.
Oh.
So, which I did not know.
Mhm.
So that part, and yeah, so we gonna scratch that whole thing off the table. Yeah.
Wow.
So we gonna clarify that and no, he was not living in my house. I let him keep some things here while he was getting himself
Mhm.
together. But yeah, no, we gonna clear that up like right now. But yeah, he was
I mean, I
still
know he
married.
was over there often. You know what I
He was
mean?
over here often, yes, but I'm not. I'm not gonna be made out to be no kind of fool. But as soon as I found out he
Mhm.
was still married, that was a done deal. Mm-mm.
Wow. I mean,
Hmm.
that's a shocker.
And his wife was sending like CPS to my house and all this. I mean, she was a Karen. You know how white women can be. And I'm
Uh-huh.
sitting here like, I am not dealing with this. I don't have to deal with this. Y'all both young. I'm grown. I own my own house. Y'all can
Mhm.
go over there and do whatever y'all want, but you're not bringing that mess into my house. So
Right.
yeah,
Now,
that
because
was
I know, you had mentioned in the past that she didn't care for you and right, and then like he has a daughter or something like that, right? So,
mhm.
but he never mentioned that. Now, did he say that they were divorced, or is that what he indicated at some point previously?
So initially, when I we were dating, when we were first
Hmm.
starting to get to know each other, when my husband had passed away, I found
Hmm.
out later, like months later, he wasn't divorced. So that's why we
Hmm.
broke up. But then when he came back into my life, I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, you know that I wasn't gonna be messing with a married man. So when he came back, I'm like, okay, you
Hmm.
got your whole situation taken care of. I found
Hmm.
out way later that his divorce was still not finalized, that she was
Hmm.
still withholding, and
Hmm.
contesting the divorce because she had found out about me. And so
Hmm.
then I was like, yeah, no. I gave him an ultimatum. I was like, I'll give you until such and such date to get this straightened out. If it's not straightened out, I'm done. And that's exactly what I did. We were done.
Well,
It
let
didn't
me
get straightened out, and I wasn't dealing with it.
Okay, so let me just kind of mention this though. So now he's married, and the ex-wife, I'm gonna call it the ex-wife who he's still married to, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
assuming they're like separated, right?
Yeah, they were separated 2.5 years, and
Right.
they had already filed divorce 2 years ago.
Right. So I mean, if she's contesting it and she's fighting it and all that kind of stuff, that's no fault of his. So I mean, he shouldn't be held accountable for the fact that his ex-wife is trying to make it difficult for him to move on. I mean,
Yes,
I
he should. Yes, he
think he
should.
should
Because the first
anyway.
year he never the first year he never responded to the divorce, and I didn't know that. So when I found out he didn't respond to the divorce, I helped
Mhm,
him get his, paperwork and stuff together, and he was still procrastinating because it was a lack of knowledge. But I'm not going to help you get your divorce. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm not going to get in the
mhm,
middle of this. And when things started getting messy and coming into my household,
mhm,
like you're sending CPS to my house, you're taking me to
mhm.
court for a restraining order. I don't do that. I'm too effing grown to
Right.
be dealing with this nonsense. So yeah, that had to be cut and done like real quick. And I mean, you even know I was in a situation where he was very jealous of other men in any way, shape, or form, even like me doing the podcast with you. And I
Mhm.
digressed and I gave into it, but I'm like, you jealous about me doing a podcast, but you got a whole wife. Like we not doing that.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
it's unfortunate because obviously you love this dude because obviously you wouldn't marry him if you didn't love him,
Exactly.
and he should, if he's into you the way he claims he's into you, you know what? He needs to kind of sit down and kind of give in to to this woman and say, all right, what's it going to take to make this end, right?
Hmm.
And, but keep in mind, like I said, if she's contesting it, and I don't know, because I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a divorce attorney, so I don't know how does a guy get a divorce if the woman doesn't want to, right? Like I think
Well, and
there's
that was the
something.
thing. They both had attorneys. She was contestant only because she didn't want her daughter around me.
Hmm.
And that was the only reason it was getting contested because she was jealous of me. Her daughter kept asking for me. So her whole thing was she would not sign divorce papers as long as he would only see his daughter under supervised visitation without me there, and that she was never allowed to come to my house.
Oh my God, but
Yeah, that's, I mean, some, and it's funny because I had somebody, I was following somebody on Facebook that said the same thing about women who use children as like bait and keep like good fathers away from their child for,
Mhm.
no reason. And I'm like, I can see both sides of it. I genuinely can, because I've been, a single mother before, and I've had to keep my daughter away from her father because he was violent at times. But then when he wasn't violent, then yeah, he was able to have a relationship with her. But I've also seen women use their children as pawns,
Mhm.
as well. So, but I've seen that a lot, but I'm not going to be in the middle of it anymore because I'm like, we've talked about it before in the past about making
Mhm.
concessions and kind of bending your boundaries a little bit with people. And I
Right.
bent my boundary by having another child in my life because I always said I wasn't going to do another child. But I had to stand on my boundary when it came to your ex causing problems in my life with my kids because my kids are teens just like yours. Like, I don't
Mhm.
have to deal with a little kid anymore,
Right. Yeah, and that's the
So
thing. You don't. I mean, and listen, you're gonna hear this often because I know you feel the same way I feel about this, which is, you have to protect your peace, right?
exactly.
When you're at a certain stage in your life, and I joke with my friends all the time because they're like, well, what's it like to be, single essentially? And they're like, and I tell them, listen, my food tastes great, my air is fresh, I get a good night's sleep, and there's no
Hmm.
stress and no drama, right?
Exactly.
Relationships sometimes are filled with drama, right? For
Hmm.
various reasons. And it's sometimes, I mean, in my case, thank the Lord, unfortunately, I don't have baby mama drama because, my wife
Same.
passed away,
As
you know.
your wife passed away, my husband passed away, so
So,
we don't
yeah.
have to deal with that.
Right. So, so whoever I get involved with doesn't have to worry about a jealous woman coming and, I don't want you around my kids, and all sorts of I don't have none of that stuff. So,
Mhm.
I just want someone, where it's peaceful. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so she has to have her side peaceful. If she has kids,
Exactly.
hopefully she has a good relationship with the guy. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So that where he's not, who the hell is this you dealing, got around my son or my daughter, and
Exactly.
and all this other kind of stuff. Like you don't. That's drama, and you get at a point in your
And
life
we're
where,
too old to be dealing with that. Like, no, we don't need that. We're too settled in our lives. You own your own home. You got your own business. Your kids are grown. Same on my end. Like, we don't need that. Like, we've gone through that already. Our 30s, our 20s, like 40s, 50s. We don't have to deal with that anymore. And I'm not. We should have higher standards at this point in our life. Like, we've had successful marriages. This is now about, it's a difference. This is about wants, not needs anymore. You know what I'm saying?
right,
So
right.
we shouldn't have to deal with all of that. No. So I can be another test subject for you with online dating because I feel like I'm about to go back to I'm about to go back to online dating and see like how that works out.
I was just
we
mentioning.
we need to revisit some sites again, like maybe Hinge or Match.com.
Yeah, listen, dating, online dating, the stigma is no longer there. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, I watch House Hunters every night because I love real estate, right?
Me too.
And every night, listen, virtually, if you watch House Hunters on Oprah, on
Mhm.
Oprah's channel, she has House Hunters on the weekends, and it's only black
Mhm.
people. She only has the black folks on there, right?
Yeah. The
And
black realtors and all that.
yeah. And listen, I could tell you half of the people on this show have met online, right?
Yeah.
They've met online. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? Like, there's no stigma attached to that anymore. Like, there are, because the same people you would meet if you went to a lounge or a restaurant or whatever, these are the same
Mm-hmm.
folks that are online. Only
Yeah.
difference is you're meeting them
And you
uh,
get more information.
right. You're able to vet them. That's why I like to use the word vet.
Yeah.
Because you're finding out, and I've come to the realization, if you really want a relationship to really be effective, it really kind of comes down to a handful of things, right?
Hmm.
And the first thing it comes down to is compatibility, right?
Yeah.
How are we compatible, right? Like,
Hmm.
do we like the same things, right?
Hmm.
Like, there's this woman that reached out to me a couple of months ago, right?
Hmm.
And she's like, "Hey, how you doing?" And the conversation was pretty decent, right? And she starts talking about what she enjoys, right? And one of
Hmm.
the things that she enjoys is fishing, right?
Okay.
And I hate fishing, right?
Oh my God.
I
You're
really
like
do.
one of very few men.
Yeah. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I used to, when I was a kid, my aunt used to take me fishing, and I've been on a
Hmm.
couple of fishing trips with some of my male friends, and they
Hmm.
loved it. We were on the boat fishing, and I just thought it was the most boring, excuse my French, shit, because all you're doing is sitting there with a fishing line, and you're kind of like waiting, and if there's no fish on the hook, they ain't shit going on, right? And so it's like, man, this shit is boring, right? And
The
so,
silence, the tranquility.
and that's fine, right?
Well, you're a New Yorker, so I mean, you need noise, but go ahead.
So, so she says to me, I mean, I love to fish. I like to rent the boat and go out on the fish and this and that. And I said to her, we're not compatible. She's like, and we were compatible in other areas, like we had good conversation. But
Hmm.
if fishing is one of your like big things
Top
that you
hobbies.
enjoy doing,
Yeah.
you and I are not compatible. And I had to tell her, like, yo,
Why couldn't she just do that on her own? But
well,
I think, I want to just add a side note real quick. I feel like, first of all, I'm going to be rejoining. I'm just inviting myself. And
right.
second of all, I feel like we should discuss like which sites are best for men because I was talking to my son-in-law today and
Hmm.
my daughter is being a jerk. So he's looking to put himself back out there and he was saying that
Hmm.
a lot of online dating sites are harder for men than they are for women. So I would love to
I
get your
mean, harder
perspective
in
on
what
that.
way?
And trying to filter through like who's a bot, who's real, who's sincere, things of that nature. I'm like, I've never had to experience that as a woman.
Well, to be honest with you, to me, I don't see like I can tell. You can tell. Um, One of the things, the ways you can tell if the the profile is fictitious, to me, is if there are like there's some profiles you see where they have six pictures, all the same picture. If you have six
Gotcha.
pictures and all of them are the same, something's wrong with that, right?
Yeah.
Then if you look at the pictures and she looks like she's in an office, right? And she looks too perfect. And nine times
Mm-hmm.
out of ten, she probably is, AI generated because they do
Right.
have these AI generated things now, pictures, right? I don't think it's difficult, to be honest with you, to identify a female on online. But I'm gonna have to say, and listen, distance shouldn't be, eliminated. But I'm gonna tell folks the easiest way for a relationship to develop, quite honestly, is if the person is in close proximity to you. It's
Yeah, for
easier.
sure.
It's
I agree
easier
with that.
because
Hmm.
when you start dating someone that doesn't live locally and you really,
Hmm.
really like them, right, it
Hmm.
becomes a challenge, right?
It does.
And then you have to kind of get to a point where, all right, either you got to come closer to me or I got to come
Hmm.
closer to you, right?
Yeah, you need
Because
that physicality before you can really determine. I mean, like the Zoom, the face, time and all that. It's just not the same as you actually being right next to a person and feeling that chemistry with them.
right, exactly. And once you start realizing that you really, really like the person, you've got to
Hmm.
kind of have that real talk with them and ask
Yeah.
them, yo, what's going to happen here? Are you going to
Mhm.
move closer to me, or am I, going to move closer to you?
Oh my
Because
God. Yeah.
you don't want to go through the motions for a long period of time, and the person is like, "No, I ain't moving near you," and you ain't moving near
Yeah.
them, and then you just
Mhm. And you
wasted
just wasted
2 months,
time.
right? So
Yep.
you need to have that discussion with someone. So anyway, it's wonderful to have Miss Duhard back with us, right? But once
I
again,
just kind of invited myself. So
exactly. But that's you're always welcome. You're family, baby. Right. So
thank you,
it's
sweetie.
it's been an hour, and so everyone watching, by all means, like, subscribe, follow, all that kind of stuff you're supposed to do. So everybody watching on Facebook, thank you for the comments. You were wonderful. Everybody watching on TikTok in the comments, wonderful. Everybody watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and all that kind of stuff. Um,
Mhm.
and we will be back again next Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Good, the Bad, and the Odd online dating podcast. And thank you, Ms. Duha, for joining us. And I guess we will see you now that
Thank you
Homeboy got
for
kicked to the
letting me
door.
back in. I know that now that I have permission.
Exactly. Now that you got a pass.
Mm-mm-mm.
All
Good
right.
night.
Good night, everybody.